Okay, we're rolling.
Right, this is an interview at the Division of Military Naval Affairs Headquarters, Latham, New York. It is the 25th of June, 2007, approximately 11 a.m. Interviewers are Mike Russert and Wayne Clark. Could I have your full name, date of birth, and place of birth, please?
Edward R. Shiffer, 12/28/47, Troy, New York.
All right. What was your educational background prior to entering service?
I graduated out of Mechanical High School.
What
back
year?
in 1966.
Okay.
Okay. Did you enlist or were you drafted?
I was working at a paper mill, a mechanic mill, in February, yeah, in April, I got my first draft notice. Towards the end of the month, they sent me another one, but it was a deferment. It said they had their draft quota for that month. Following month, I got another draft notice. And I went in 26 May 1967 as drafted.
Where'd you go for basic training?
I went to Fort Jackson, South Carolina for 0 week. From there I went to Fort Gordon, Georgia for basic. And then from there I went to Fort Polk, Louisiana for AIT.
And what kind of AIT was that?
That was 11 Bravo, Infantry.
Did you
Tigerland.
did you pick that, or did they pick that for you?
No, they picked what the MOS that they want you to have.
Mm-hmm.
They actually, after we graduated out of basic, they lined all the USs up, and then they had a list of MOSs that they needed people for, and they would just go right down,
Mm-hmm.
cook, clerk, infantry, that's how you got picked.
What was that infantry AIT like?
Tigerland, they had them in two places. They have one at Fort Gordon, Georgia, which taught, trained for Vietnam. Then they also had Fort Polk, Louisiana, which was Tigerland, which to me brought you more into the scenario once I got into Vietnam, that was the better training out of the two, I think.
Mm-hmm. Do you think you were trained adequately or prepared for Vietnam?
Oh, yes, definitely. Definitely. A lot of our DIs were Vietnam veterans.
Mm-hmm.
They really pushed you because I talked to one time. He was a trainer on the APCs, Army Personnel Carriers, and we had to learn how to get in them and out of them and set up a firing squad. And couldn't find out. He had a couple of buddies that was killed in one, and he really pushed for people to learn what they were doing. Because he told us, he said, "I want to see you guys come back alive." But they had a POW camp there. They put you through an escape and evasion course. If you got captured, they actually tortured you back then, or gave you a little punishment anyway, to see what it was like. And the course was 2.5 miles long, and they had aggressors out there. They captured you. They took you back to the compound, and luckily, I made it 2.5 miles, didn't get caught. But some of the guys that got caught, yeah, they learned a lot.
Mm-hmm. Now, did you go home on leave after AIT?
I went home on leave, then I reported to Fort Lewis, Washington for overseas shipment. And I landed in Cameron Bay. I was at Fort Lewis for about 3 days. And I went to Cameron Bay, and from there I was shipped to Saigon, Camp Alpha, which from there I went to the 25th Infantry Division Replacement Center, Cu Chi.
How did you get up to Cu Chi?
From Camp Alpha to Cu Chi, they bused us.
Mm-hmm.
And we had no weapons. It was our first in country. And it was scary from what you learned, We did have MPs or some guys from the unit they were in Jeeps. And they had the weapons, and they led us to Cu Chi.
What was your reaction when you landed with the heat and so on? How did you? Well, you had trained in Louisiana, so it wasn't
because I was in
probably...
Louisiana, and I was right there during the summertime. So it was pretty much almost the same climate. That's why I felt, and for Polk, you got a better training and to climatize yourself than we would have if we were at Fort Gordon. And the swamps were there and, you know, all that, so.
Now, when you were in the buses, did they have screening on the windows and so on? Some
Well, they had
told
screening,
us that
they had,
they
you know,
had-
when the windows were open, and as you drove, you went by rice paddies, and you could see the Vietnamese out there working the rice paddies, you know, in their pajamas and hats, and you think back, well, geez, you know, they could be the enemy at night, because that's what they trained us for when I was in Fort Polk.
What was Coochie like when you got
So
there?
then, got to replacement center, and at that time, was the monsoon season, it was a mud hole, and in the dry season, it would get to be a dust bowl, you'd walk in 2 foot of dust. And so we were there, and then we got the units we got picked for. I went to Charlie Company, first of the 27 Wolfhounds. And at that time, when I got to where the unit was on that camp, they were out in the field. So, us replacements, we had to go through like a week training to get your head, hey, you know, mindset that you're into, going into a war again, you know, or going into a war. Because you just couldn't go from home on leave.
Yeah.
And they had a training center, they had mocked up helicopters and things like that. You were there for a week doing that. Then finally, the unit came in out of the field. They had been out there for 35, 40 days. And you really felt funny then, because you see these guys getting off the vehicles and stuff, because they would land with the helicopters at the airstrip. And he would deuce and a half the guys back to the compound where we were. And see them come in, they were just muddy, you know, I mean, here we are standing in brand new jungle fatigues, you know.
How did they treat you as a replacement when you
They
first
were
met
pretty
them?
good, we really got no kicks, you know, I mean, they were quiet, they didn't really talk much. And I can remember we were all standing there, the replacements, and when they divided us up into companies. And some of us guys that went to Charlie Company, the platoon sergeant, he stood us, we were in line there, and he goes, he says, let me tell you guys, he said, I'm going to tell you one thing. He said, you screw up in a firefight, he says, I am personally going to pull the pin on the grenade and shove it up your butt. And man, my knees started knocking in. I went, oh my God. I didn't know what to do. And then we pretty much, they were in for 3 or 4 days, and then you got your gear ready to go to the field. And like me, I was carrying everything I owned just about. And trying to get on the helicopter, the guys had to pull me on. So come to find out, what they do is they had like a squad bag where you could put, you know, a couple items in it, like a field jacket or a poncho liner. That way you didn't have to carry it on your person. Because once I got out there and we got in the field, the main thing I carried was Claymore mine, 4 Claymore bags with M16 ammo and the magazines. I was the assistant machine gunner, so I carried 2 bandoliers of M60 ammo, well, 2 belts, 3 canteens of water. Then later on, my mother, she would send me Kool-Aid. So I would make 1 canteen with Kool-Aid and the other 2 was water. And I carried my, I carried 4 grenades, hand grenades, which I carried in my entrenching tool cover. You know, carrying like John Wayne, because you know, you're going through the jungles, I mean, you could pop a pen and, you know. So that's why I carried them that way. And I carried the M16, and then my machine gunner, Freeney, he carried the M60, and we take turns carrying it, you know, as he got tired or whatever.
Did you carry sea rations with you?
Yeah, sea rations I carried. They usually gave us. You always got to restock in the morning, before you went out on your sweeps. And I always carried that in this pocket here. And I always carried a half stick of C4 on this side, the explosive to heat it with.
What was your first mission like?
First time, we were on a sweep, I'm trying to think now. No, we're going on an ambush. And we're going along, and all of a sudden we started getting hit. There was 25 of us. And so we made a perimeter, and we were fighting them off, and first guy hit was our medic. And then a couple of guys were getting hit. Freeney and I was there, and he was firing like crazy. And so we had to call for reactionary platoon. Well, they got there, and finally the Viet Cong moved out, but they were starting to set up a base camp, but we didn't know it. We walked right into it.
Mm-hmm.
And out of the 25, there was only 4 of us that was able to walk out of there. And that was my first and scary one, right there.
Now, some of the guys were killed, or?
Yeah, we had some killed, some wounded. In fact, to bring in the reactionary platoon, one guy took the 45 from the medic, was fired in the air. That tracer, you know, the guy that meant.
And then what happened after that? You guys moved out or pulled back, or?
Yeah, it was mainly, we never really stayed in any one area too long. We'd go into an area, we'd sweep it. We stayed here 3 or 4 days, go out on ambushes, different types of patrols during the day. And then they'd pack us up, and we'd move to another area 3 or 4 days.
Mm-hmm.
What was daily life like?
They usually would try to get you a hot breakfast in the morning. The cooks would come out at night, cook your hot breakfast in the morning, and they would fly back to Cu Chi. And then we had sea rations for the noon meal, and then your supper meal was sea rations.
What about bugs and mosquitoes? Were they a constant problem for you?
Mosquitoes were, red ants were. 'Cause I was down in the rice paddies. I wasn't in the actual full jungles. We did do some operations in the boiler woods, hobo woods. And like in those areas, that's where we found a lot of tunnels down in those areas. But
Now, did you guys have like a tunnel rat with you, or?
we did not have tunnel rats.
Uh-huh.
In fact, it was Christmas Eve. And 67. And we had 3 guys already down the tunnel. They were checking the main tunnel out. And they asked for 2 volunteers to guard the tunnel entrance. Well, at the time, I didn't know what they were talking about, you know. I figured just, you know, you move, because we were laying in one area for quite a while. So I figured, well, it'll give me a chance to move to another area, you know. Well, couldn't find out, it was to actually go down inside that tunnel. Then I said, oh my God. I was changing my mind, but then I didn't want to look, you know. I already volunteered, I didn't, you know, didn't want to let anybody else know. So it was me and another guy. And what they said was they would be singing Christmas carols. Okay? So, and they told us how many times there was tunnels to either the right or the left, side tunnels. And most of those they had checked out. But they come on this one, it was quite long, and they wanted to stay in the main tunnel. And what it was, they didn't want anybody coming up behind them. So what we had to do was get to where they were. And then we stayed there. So they had went on, checked the main tunnel, and come back. But now we had no flashlight. So every now and then, like if we come up to a dead stop or, you know, we'd light a match to see where the heck we were, or, you know, whatever, to follow the tunnel.
So you were just moving in the dark?
Yeah, yeah.
Now, what did you take down with you?
We had our M16. I mean,
Okay,
you
but
could
you
actually
must have
go.
taken everything else
Oh, yeah,
off,
everything else was
basically.
off. We had the M16 and, you know, some ammo,
Mm-hmm.
a couple magazines. And usually your tunnel rats and stuff use 45s, but we didn't have it. And so you could actually go in a low crouch down in there. The main thing is when we first started, you started from the ground, you would go down a little bit, then it would stop and go this way. Then you crawl a couple of feet, whatever, then it would go back up, and it just kept going farther down. The reason why they did that was during the monsoon season, it wouldn't flood the main tunnel.
Uh-huh.
But, I mean, they were just, it was unbelievable how they could build that stuff. And I mean, they went for miles under there. And, but we were crawling for a while, and all of a sudden, you know, I thought I could hear them, and it sounded like the guys that were ahead of us. It sounded like we were on top of them. I said, oh my God, I think we took a wrong turn, you know? So then we yelled, and then when they had the flashlight and the radio, they spun the light around, and you see that it was up around a bend there. And that's what they told us, you know, what they wanted us to do while they checked out the main tunnel. And so now I'm going, holy God, they're gonna leave us here with no lights, you know? Now I gotta guard this entrance coming this way, and you can't see anything. The only thing I could do was I got on the tunnel, and I put my feet up like this, sitting on the ground, and I put the 16 just like that, and if anything bumped into it, I was just gonna let loose.
Did you ever do that again?
No, that was my one and only experience, and no, I did not volunteer.
How long were you down there?
We were down there probably about 6 hours.
Oh, my God.
I was never so glad to get out of there. Couldn't believe it.
Now, when you were out in the field, you stayed there, when you stayed overnight, what did you do? How did you set up a camp?
Oh, all we had was like mainly we were in the rice paddies. There was berms. And like, when I did my position, it was me, it was Freddie, the machine gunner, and then we had Audiberry, which he was in the program Letters from Vietnam.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if you ever saw that.
Yeah.
He was in that program. And I'll tell you how I learned that, because I contacted him later. But anyway, I would just cut, you know, a porthole for the weapon, okay, on each side. And we just dug in the back. We put up engineer stakes right even with the berm. We didn't go higher. That way, you know, if you went higher at the end, you could see. And then, which we didn't sleep in the little bunkers. We didn't sleep in those. We made sleeping holes. You would scratch out a pit about your length, go about that deep, and then fill sandbags with it, and put them up on their ends, and put it around that, and that's what you slept in, right there. Because I figured if they hit the bunker, you know. The only time we went in there, if we were getting hit, rounds were coming in, and we would jump in there.
And most of the time, did you fight the VC or the NVA?
We were mostly VC. We fought mostly VC.
What about booby traps? Did you ever encounter those?
A lot of what I did over there, I walked point. I would walk point during the day. I didn't care to walk point at night, okay? But I did walk point during the day. And yeah, you would find a lot of, what would happen is a GI goes for the easiest way through hedgerows and stuff like that. And it wasn't always the best scenario to do, because that's where they would booby trap. They were ingenious. One time I was operating, they have what they call Kit Carson. They were people that were Viet Cong. They gave themselves up, rallied to our side. And then the military would train them the way we were trained, somewhat. And then they would walk with the point man, because they knew all the signals to where the booby traps were. This one particular time, I was walking with this one guy, and we were going through, and the platoon was still coming through the other hedgerow. We started into a new hedgerow, and all of a sudden he knocked me on my butt, and here it's him and I, man. I just grabbed it. I was ready to let him have it, and he yelled and screaming, and he was pointing. There was a piece of bamboo that was bent like this, sticking like that, and I followed it down, and went right to a wire, which went across that path that I was going across. And it was hooked to a 155 gun that they had rigged to explode. And needless to say, when we come back out of the field that time, they could wear those tiger uniforms. Well, I went to PX and got them one of those sets, gave it to them. I mean, because I would walk right through it, I never saw it. So they were an asset to the infantry guys, especially the point man.
Did you guys ever have dog handlers with you too?
One night we were doing a roving patrol, and I was walking point that night. We had a dog handler and a dog in the middle, and so we were going along, and all of a sudden the dog sensed the smell, and he stopped. His ears went up, and it went, "Oh my God!" But luckily nothing happened. They had moved out.
Did you ever have any problems with your M16? I know they did.
All I can tell you, that M16, that particular model at the time, was great for opening sea ration boxes, but it jammed all the time. In fact, a lot of us, we had the cleaning rods were all together, and we had them tied onto the bottom of the M16 so we could quickly access them. Because what was happening, when they fired the rounds, it was trying to eject and inject at the same time. They were jamming. That's what's happening. So.
That M16, that probably didn't have that forward assist?
No. It was the very first 16 they come out with.
Did you guys ever carry like a backup weapon?
No. I had to carried a couple laws, but
What were your officers like, for the most part?
the officers, they were good. They were good for the most part. They had no problems. They pretty much seemed to know what they were doing.
What about your platoon sergeants and
Platoon
squad
sergeants
leaders?
were great. Squad leaders were great. Everybody worked together. I
Were
mean,
there, you were over there, I guess, early on, did you have any race problems within your units or anything like that?
no, it was funny. The whole town I come from, there wasn't many black people. And in fact, I really never dealt with them until I went into the military. I never, we were never together. And so when I went to Vietnam, the assistant machine gunner was a brother, and Audibury was a brother. Now it was well, Sergeant Audibury, like when it come time, every time we move or something to build a bunker, he couldn't find him, was wondering where he was. So I was going to say something to him, because Freeney and I were approximately the same rank. We were both spec forward. And so Freeney says, "Hey," he says, "tell him like it is." I said, "Well," he says, "Look," he says, "I'm telling you, tell him like it is." And I had no problem. It worked out well for the military.
Did you ever have much contact with the Vietnamese people?
No, not much. When we swept, we just, check ID cards, stuff like that. Never really associated with them or anything like that. No.
How about the South Vietnamese Army?
We did some operations with them. And a lot of time, well, there was times that they took off on us. And, but I mean, it was hard working with them because, they were the same looks as your enemy. So that's why a lot of times we operated with them. They'd have one sleeve of their fatigue up, the other one down, and that way we could tell. Luckily, Vietcong never picked that up at the time.
Do you have any times there that you thought were maybe a story that was amusing? Something happened that was kind of humorous?
Well, I had this one soldier, at one time, if you had 3 Purple Hearts, you could get out of the field. Well, this soldier had 2, and we were set up with a mech unit. And we got hit, and we were up, this one guy and I was up on a tank, and a round came in, a piece of the shrapnel, just hit his back and it welted. So he goes, how bad is it? How bad is it? He was looking at getting out of the field. So, well, it's only, like put a bump on you, So, oh, man, he says, cut it. I go, what? He says, cut it. I want to, draw blood. I got a chance of another Purple Heart and I can get out of here. Oh, that's what you want. Okay. But I did it, and, he patched him up and stuff like that. But right after that, they quit. He couldn't get out on 3 Purple Hearts, so he didn't get out.
Now, did you eventually become a squad leader yourself, or?
No, pretty much, I just point man.
Mm-hmm.
And
What about the attrition rate? Did you guys lose quite a few guys?
the total, as far as how many, I couldn't tell you, but yeah, we lost quite a few.
Uh-huh.
I mean, like I was there 4 months, and then all of a sudden I was like the Obi.
Uh-huh.
I was in a newbie. Yeah, there was a good turnaround.
Was there anyone that you were out in the field with that left a greater impression on you?
Oh yeah. Specialist Freedom machine gunner. He was cool.
What was
He
his
reminded
name?
me of John Wayne.
What was his name?
Freeney. Specialist Freeney.
Now, was he the one that was in Letters from Vietnam?
No, that was Oliver.
Okay. You want to tell us about that?
Because in fact, when I got out, well, it was just like 3 or 4 years ago here, maybe 5. I never really went online and looked up the unit, And so one of the guys from the other unit here says, hey, did you ever go online and look up 25th Infantry? I said, no. So he gave me the website. So I went online, and then it showed where you could find your unit.
Mm-hmm.
So I did, and then if you weren't listed, you could add your name to it. So that's what I did. And it wasn't 3 days later. Who do I hear from but Otterbury? I forgot, let's see, Freeney, I was in Mississippi. That's where he moved to. And Otterbury was from Louisiana.
Mm-hmm.
And that was right about the time that this unit I'm in now was going to do JRTC down at Fort Polk. And so we corresponded back and forth. And that was pretty cool, to talk about old times.
Did you get to meet up with him?
No, but that's when he told me that, because he says, Ed, if you don't remember who I am, he says, I was on the program Letters from Vietnam. So he was one of the guys that was on it. But Freeney, he never emailed or anything, so I don't know whatever happened to him, he's still alive. But
Now, eventually, didn't you end up in some kind of unit in Cameron Bay, too?
yeah, what I did, I went in when I was drafted, and then after, so many months I go, I'm liking the Army itself, and I really didn't have anything for when I got out, when you're drafted, it's usually 2 years. So I talked to a recruiter when I was in Cu Chi, and I says, hey, you got MOSs that you can really learn things from, other than being infantry. And so he said, yeah, he says, I can get you to a supply field. He says, if you list, he said, I can get you to supply MOS, which at the time was 76 Papa. I said, gee, sounds pretty good.
Now, how long had you been in country at that point?
6 months.
Okay.
So it was almost 6 months, just about 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so I enlisted, got the MOS, And then I got stationed down into Cameron Bay in the United States Army Marine Maintenance Activity.
Now, did they put you through a
Unit.
OJT program?
Yeah, that's
for
what I
that?
was,
Okay.
OJT, yeah. So I went down there and, you know, at the time, that unit, it was supply is what it was.
Mhm.
We had boat parts. Because they had a repair shop, which they repaired the engines and the boats that the 4th Infantry Division used in the Delta, the airboats. Plus, we had supplies, or parts for Naval Corporation. They were a civilian outfit that would bring all the sea land trailers over, your food and all that stuff.
Mhm.
Well, we had parts for their boats and things like that too, that they could repair. We had Army Lark boats, which were unloading, which were craft that would unload boats. We had what else? We had a couple LSTs. We had a couple of those. And mainly that's all that was. And I was there 6 months. And they wanted me to stay another 6 months. So I agreed, so I extended my time for another 6 months. So my total time in Vietnam was 18 months. And after I finished that 6 months, they wanted me to asked me to do another 6. I said, no, I'm going home. I had enough. But Cameron, I mean, that was like, it was pretty close to stateside duty.
Uh-huh.
I mean, we had the rock troops, the Koreans. They had the outskirts of the bay and all that, and they kept that pretty secure. And, I mean, we might get a couple rocket attacks, things like that. It did hit the ammo point at one time, but there was no, because we had the bay in front of us. And then, like, that unit got hit, we got, you know, rocketed. And our platoon our job was to run down to the beach, get our weapons, and just lay there and make sure nothing come across the water. That's all that was.
Now, that outfit, was that the 1st Logistical Command?
Yeah, I call it the beginning
It's-
shootout.
Okay. And then, once you left Vietnam and went back to the States, how much time did you have left over?
Well, I did, when I came back from now, I went to Fort Polk, or Fort Jackson, South Carolina. I was stationed at a basic training outfit, supply sergeant. I spent 9 months there, and then an opening come for Germany, levy come down. They wanted a couple people. So I volunteered for that, so I got to go to Germany for 11 months, and AETS in 71,
Mhm.
March.
When did you end up going into the Guard? Did you join right away, or did you have...
No, I had a 7-year break, and my brother-in-law, he was in the unit in the aviation unit here at Latham,
Uh-huh.
and he was talking to me. He said, you know, for the time you had, why waste it? You know, come in, join the Guard, blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, I don't know. So I came down, I talked to the first sergeant at the time, and it sounded pretty good. That was 1978. So I joined the Guard,
When did you leave the Army itself?
71, 1971. So 78, I joined the Guard, and then a full-time job come on AGR, which is Army Guard Reserve. It's just like being in the military. It opened up in 87, so I took that. So
Now, what was that job? The AGR job?
the AGR job, that was readiness NCO for the unit.
Okay.
Yeah. So I became readiness NCO, then about 4 or 5 years ago, higher ranking slot opened within the same unit as the operations NCO. So I took that, and that's how I made my next grade.
And how many years do you have in all total?
So right now, I'm doing ETS, totally out of the Guard in November, the end of November
Mm-hmm.
of 2007. And that'll give me 32 years, 9 months, and 9 days. Not that I'm counting. But, you know, Vietnam, I mean, like, when I came back from Vietnam, I don't know, a lot of the guys, they didn't talk about it, they held it inside them.
Mhm.
And with me, it was, you know, somebody asked me, I told them what it was like. That was like my way of relieving myself, you know, just
Mhm.
without it building up on me and, you know, getting frustrated with it. In fact, there's a guy, his last name is Neil, and he's in Saratoga. He was in the same company I was in Vietnam, it was 25th. Him and I did a thing about a year ago with Saratoga. It was a full spread they did on him and I. And he can tell you some stories too.
Did you find any negativity towards you when you came back?
Oh, there was a lot of yeah. You know, I called the baby killer and all that stuff. I mean, I know, like, from what I saw and heard about, you know, coming back to the States, Vietnam veterans. I mean, when I hit Fort Lewis, Washington, I mean, I wore my uniform because back then you could get a discount on plane fares, you know, if you had your military uniform, and or if you were in the military. But you had to wear your uniform, and as soon as I got home, I took it right off.
Mhm.
Had
And
you
I have my
been
leave.
aware of the anti-war movement? Had you been aware of the anti-war
Oh,
movement?
yeah. I mean, you know, I knew it was happening and all that.
Mhm.
My mom would, you know, write and send pictures and stuff, you know, news clippings, and, you know, you just couldn't believe it. I mean, you're reading this stuff, and there you are fighting a war over, you know, in another country, and you ain't even got the backing from your own people, you know. That's the only thing that was, I don't want to say the greatest, but at least the soldiers back in World War II, they had a backing. They had people there, and, you know, I mean, everybody kicked in and to keep them clothed, to keep them fed, you know. Farmers kicked in. I mean, it was totally different than what we had.
After you left the service, did you make use of the GI Bill at all?
No, I didn't, no, because I come in here and I just went to work, and I had a job, and so I just really, I should have, but I never found the use, you know, I just didn't use it.
Have you joined any veterans organizations?
I belong to BMW, Post 420, and Saratoga Springs. Been a member there since 1977.
Have you been active?
Yes, yeah. Trying to do a lot of good things, trying to get a lot of new people, you know, newer people in now. Now at the Iraq War, and we got a couple coming in.
Do you find it difficult to get the newer vets in? I know.
Yeah, what it is, it's, you know, they look at it like VFW is a place just to go, sit down, tell war stories, and get drunk, okay, drink. That's it.
Mhm.
But it probably was that way, but it's changing, you know.
Mhm.
Newer people like Vietnam vets, I mean, you know, coming in and trying to get things done, and, you know, trying to get new members, you know, hit organizations within the communities to do things for them, and then they help us. So that's where, you know, shooting for.
You did say you stayed in contact with some that you served with.
Right. Neil, and I mean, him and I, you know, we keep in contact, we see each other a lot on Saratoga. So. Yeah, because he was our radio man. And he got some kind of rash. His whole body just got covered. And in fact, he draws disability today because of that.
Mhm.
So they had to take him out of, you know.
Did you have any injuries or illnesses at all?
Me, luckily, no, thank God. I was one of the lucky ones. In fact, when I was talking to, emailing with Sergeant Audenberry there, he was saying, you know, because I felt funny leaving, going for a different MOS, leaving the guys that, you know, I was fighting with. But, I mean, at the time, I was looking to better myself. And, I mean, you know, coming out of the infantry and going home, I mean, he was going to look at your infantry, great, you know. There's no job's going to get you one firing a weapon somewhere.
Mhm.
And so he, you know, we were talking. He said, I understood, you know, why you did it, and blah blah blah. And he said, you know, he says you're lucky because he says you were the only one at that time of the group to get out of the infantry there without a Purple Heart, and every one of them had a Purple Heart. Thank God I didn't.
Did you ever watch any of the movies Vietnam movies at all?
Yeah, as far as the one I'd say looks close to actual situations was Hamburger Hill. That one I kind of feel was more close.
Mhm.
And then you get into the marijuana part. I can say, in my unit anyway, it really wasn't, I really didn't see it used that much.
Mhm.
Not hardly at all. I myself did get involved in it because I was walking point. I wanted to have my head because I knew I was responsible for other guys behind me. But I can say I saw a lot of it used in Germany when I went there in the 70, 71. A lot of it.
Mhm.
And I myself, in the unit I went to in Germany, I was the only Vietnam vet that had been to Vietnam. The rest of them were just kids from the States right over there.
How do you think your time in the service has changed or made an effect on your life,
I cannot complain about the military. I think it's done, I've enjoyed what I've done. I've learned a lot. I've learned responsibility. If I had it to do it over again, I'd do it over again. I probably should have used the GI Bill, got a little college in me too. But I can feel like I'm getting out here in November. I'm still going to work. I feel like I can still get a good job.
life?
You've had a
All my
great career,
experiences.
and you'll get a good pension, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
The military is what you make it.
Mhm.
You're going to be a loser, you're going to be a loser. But if you really go after it, it's great. I have no complaints about the military.
Okay, well, thank you
Okay.
very much for your
Thank you.
interview.